How's it going? Mail here, and I know exactly what you want right now. At this very moment, what you want more than anything else is a ray of sunshine. Guess who's here to give it to you? That's right. I want you to look right here. Look carefully, look closely, try to stay calm. You ready? Cue the sunshine in 3, 2, 1. Boom. There it is. Take a look at that. Who is that hot guy? I don't know, but we should stop staring. Celebrities hate that. So moving on to today's WBE lesson, make the sizzle worth more than the steak. Every product or business has features and benefits, stuff it has and stuff you get. I was once told the features tell and benefits sells. Your focus should be on the result. A woman doesn't buy makeup, she's buying a younger face. A man is not buying a car, he's buying looks from his friends. A woman doesn't want to go out with me, she just wants to make every other woman jealous. I'm just kidding, of course she wants to go out with me. You get the idea. If you call it selling, then you want to sell them what they want and give them what they need. And if you're good, then you understand the concept of sell the sizzle and not the steak. But if you want to be great, then you make the sizzle worth more than the steak. Every piece of communication that a business ever has, every ad, every script, every piece of dialogue, spoken, printed, electronic, or otherwise, it's all an attempt at gaining compliance from somebody, a vendor, a partner, a client. There's always somebody that you want compliance with. But the first step in compliance, the seed of compliance that is always necessary, the thing that you need before your words ever have a hope of getting what you want, it all starts with one very important thing: getting attention. That's why when companies talk, they spend billions on expensive commercials, celebrity endorsements, fancy colors, headlines, half-naked people, totally naked people, people fornicating. All of that is used to get attention. Compliance is a function, it's a derivative, it is preceded and comes from attention. As a masterful empire builder, you should always strive to make sure your dialogue gets the right attention, and the single best way to get better at getting attention is to make sure that what you are using to get attention with is worth more than what you are getting attention for. I'll say that again. The single best way to get better at getting attention is to make sure that the thing that you are using to get attention with is worth more than what you are getting attention for. Here's a story time example. This is Joshua L. Cohen. A little over 100 years ago, he was an inventor. He had brilliance and he was passionate, but the problem was that he wasn't making much money from any of his ideas. He once came up with a way to light flower pots. He made a long metal tube that was filled with batteries, and at the top it had a light. Now the idea was to put the light vertically in a pot so that it could shine up on plants. Josh thought that this would be good for stores to use in their display windows. They could use the lit pot to get attention and mark down inventory or sales or a new product line or something like that. The light would be an attention getter. Then along came this guy. He was a Russian inventor named Conrad, and he saw Josh's idea and he bought it from him. Now as soon as Conrad got his hands on this flower pot lamp thing, he knew exactly what he was going to do with it. Instead of putting it vertically in a flower pot, he put it horizontally in people's hands. This is known today as the flashlight. Conrad made millions and millions of dollars with Josh's idea, but Josh didn't get any of that fortune. You may already notice the irony. Joshua's invention was supposed to be used by stores to get attention, but he missed the fact that the item itself was worth as much or more than the stuff he was trying to attract attention towards. So he missed out on the flashlight, and in general, he didn't have many home runs that he was making money on, but even though he had some ups and downs, it wasn't all bad. He did have some success. Josh's first patent was a device that looked like a flashlight, but it used powder instead of a bulb, and he thought that it would be helpful for photographers, but it never caught on with them. Instead, the waterproof properties of the device were used by the US Navy to make underwater mine fuses. Those are fun. So Cohen did make some money off that, but his breakthrough came one day when he was making a motor for a small fan that he had. He looked at the motor and he thought that it would also work really well with one of his toys. So he made a small motor for one of his toys, and then he combined the two. He combined the motor with this toy, and he came up with his own new toy. Then he took this toy to a store owner because Josh thought that the store owner could use the toy in his window, because Josh thought the store owner could use the toy and put it on display in the display window and attract attention to the store's other products. So what do you think happened when the store used Josh's toy to attract attention to their other inventory? You guessed it. People started buying the attention getter. The toy itself. People bought the toy and not the stuff that the toy was supposed to be getting attention for. Immediately, and it was actually overnight that more orders came in for his toy. And some people even wanted to buy Josh's business, but he learned from his lesson: sell the fruit, not the tree. He realized that this sizzle was worth more than the steak, so instead of selling the business, he sold his toys. And this toy went on to make history. He would eventually become the world's biggest toy maker, and his toys are still bought and sold and in high demand even today. And it all started from this simple element: making the sizzle worth more than the steak, making the attention getter itself something of value. Now, although he did it on accident, think of the power this has when you do it on purpose. Let's say you give something away, whether it's a freebie, a trial, a discount, a bonus, an evaluation, an estimate, whatever. The main purpose of doing that is to get attention. But what if you make the thing that you're giving away worth as much or more than the actual product? This is a skill that I want you to develop, because being able to do this not only means that you can make money at will and even pull money out of thin air, but you can create new companies, build new income sources, and be able to totally destroy your competition so easily that when you look at them, all you'll see is a house of cards on a crooked table. There's so many applications and so many secrets around this that there's no way that I'll have time to get to even 5% of it, but here are just a few student examples. Kim Dorr was in real estate, and her and Millie did an experiment based on the fear-mongering in the media. So she started offering a free safe with each home, a free safe. And in some campaigns, that got her as many as 4 times as many calls. She also got some media attention, which that alone is worth it. So from doing this, she almost doubled her income, because she sent some of the extra calls to other people in real estate and she got paid on that. But think about the logic here. It's not like somebody goes out to buy a safe and they come back with a new house, right? And a safe isn't worth more than a house, at least not a normal safe, or at least not a normal house either. And it's not like somebody's thinking, oh, what's the point of buying a safe unless I have a new house to put it in? But the idea got enough extra attention that she was able to see an increase, and among other things, she was able to move a lot more newly constructed homes. And she realized she was onto something, so then she went back to her past clients and offered them safes and even higher quality and more expensive built-in safes. So she let her old clients know about it too. All said, she more than tripled her monthly net income, every month, almost immediately. When that happens, you start to realize how powerful this lesson is. And that investor, that young lady Kim, by the way, she paid over $25,000 to be trained by Millie, and now she's made more than that in a week, where before she never made more than that in any 2-month period. And she's doing all sorts of other cool stuff too. But she said that this little secret that we just went over was worth more than 10 times the 25 grand she paid to get properly trained. I wonder why I'm telling you that. Okay, let's move on. Car dealer, Ben and Scott Crossley. I love this one. He was losing business. So he was losing business to a competitor who was catering to a growing immigrant community. Okay, so he started including a free consultation with an immigration attorney, and they called the immigration attorney a citizenship specialist. What do you think happened? He saw an immediate change, and more people came in for the appointment than came in for the cars. And the client base of his competitor migrated right over, and they forgot all about that other place. In fact, he even had employees of his competitor come over for appointments. Think about that. Think about being so good that your competitor's own employees start coming to you. How badass is that? So the appointment thing worked out well, and these appointments, they led to more business for the attorney, which Ben was paid on. And in I think it was less than 60 days that he was making as much and sometimes more money from the attorney appointments than he was from the cars. Do you see the power here? Think about that for a second. A car dealer doubled his income without selling any more cars, without raising his price, without spending a single penny more on marketing or advertising or really anything else. He didn't spend any more money on anything. And this citizenship specialist dialogue positioning thing is also being used by students in Europe and Australia, because over there they have similar issues like this too. It's been really effective. And you don't have to do this with another business, by the way. Anybody who's trained by me will tell you that we don't sell anything to anybody. We don't close or make offers. If coffee's for closers, we'll take water. We help people get what they want. And when we gain compliance and people do what we want, it's because it's what they want for their own reasons. So you shouldn't call anybody on your team salespeople. And there's so many reasons for this. One is that people love to buy but hate to be sold. A lot more reasons. I won't get into all of that right now. But one thing that you always want is to have a process that takes people from being a stranger to becoming a client, and somebody that is a fan, somebody that joins your army and is a loyal soldier. But that process of taking somebody from being a stranger to somebody that is a client that you're doing business with, we don't want to call that a sales process, and that's not really what it is. But even if that's the term you're using right now, if you use better dialogue with that process, if you name it and position that process better, you can have the same effect that we've been talking about, where it's perceived to be worth more than the underlying product. The process of buying something can be seen as worth more than actually buying the thing if you do this right. A lot of our people remember Hal Stein. He's a student of ours who owns a gym. He was working with Zach, and they started using a free heart attack test. And overnight, they started booking more personal training sessions. But when they used my favorite title, the how much time do you have left test, your life expectancy test, people were flocking in so fast. And because of their enhanced dialogue, by calling it something better, they actually performed it better. And it was an actual valuable thing. And because of this, they started getting business from medical professionals and medical clinics. It was the first time in 8 years that Hal actually had to hire other trainers to handle all the extra business. And of course, Zach made a killing too. And speaking of Zach, fact, by the way. Imagine if I told you that I sat down with a professional statistician, a forensics expert, and a team of law enforcement personnel, and we studied all the robberies and break-ins over the last 35 years, and they determined that there are 5 major points in a house, and over 9 out of 10, over 90% of all break-ins and all home intruders will use one of those 5 points. And if the average robber doesn't find one of those weaknesses in a house, he'll just move on. So what do we call this? The robbery test, the home invasion vulnerability test, the 5-point burglar proof checklist. This is all part of a model that Zach and Sonny invented, and it's how they've built the fastest growing and second largest security company in the UK and in China. And whenever they turn the faucet on in America, they set records here too. And it's just interesting, right? I mean, don't you want to know what those 5 vulnerability points are? You see how in many ways knowing what those points are is actually more valuable than getting a security system? It's just like the gyms and the trainers. Don't you want to know how much time you have left, how long, medically speaking, that you will live based on the path that you're on right now? You see how simple dialogue changes the game here? And by the way, when you do this stuff, you'll learn some really cool stuff. When talking about life expectancy, for example, it was the first time that I heard that lobsters live forever. They don't age or have very many predators, so unless we kill them, a lobster can live forever. It never dies, supposedly a lobster never dies. And a biologist told me that. And although there is some debate on whether or not that's actually true, just the fact that there is debate on whether or not something lives forever, like a lobster's living forever, but just the fact that it's possible, it's just a really cool thing to know, isn't it? Anyway, the point is that whether we're talking about security systems or personal training or whatever, there's always an application for today's lesson. And there's a lot of other students just like Hal who make 10 to 30 grand a month just from helping gyms and trainers put this in place for their business. So when you get trained better and you know what you're doing with this, you can start this yourself, you can help somebody, you can buy a company and do it with them, you can just do it for fun to help somebody out, you can have an entirely independent business that's around just helping other people do this. The possibilities are endless. I mentioned Australia earlier. I have to talk about this. One of our good friends and students, Christina, has been doing something really cool. Imagine if you have a restaurant or a bar and with every meal you give away a free computer. That would be nuts, right? That's kind of what they did, not exactly, but they did a raffle. They gave away raffle tickets to a computer that they gave away every week, and it went so well that they started giving away several computers a week. Once the word spread to schools and other places, this restaurant, which never had a waiting time of more than 10 to 15 minutes, had a 2.5-hour wait on a Tuesday night. And Chris would take all the entries who didn't win the free computer, and they did a fire sale price on refurbished computers. I think the price was like less than $250, and the computer store could afford to do this because they were selling them in bulk. So even if you didn't win a free computer, you could get a killer deal on one. And she started doing this in Australia first and then in Florida. And when she had got this going, I had kind of wasn't so involved with it. Max did an interview with her a little bit later on, and the money she was making just from the computers alone was $400 to $500 a day. She has all sorts of other stuff going on. This is just from the computers alone, $400 to $500 a day. And I won't even talk about how much money she and others have made when they did this with cars. Cars, like automobile. Cars. It's crazy. But for another day. And this is part of something, a small part of something much larger called a coupon model. But it's a good example of today's lesson too. Do you see how all this stuff works? Do you see how powerful this can be? Do you see how powerful it can be when you think of something better to get attention with? And it doesn't necessarily have to be worth more than the actual product, but just the fact that you're trying to make something that's much more valuable. That alone will get your dendrites working in the right direction. And you can start just by picking random companies and brainstorming with them, because you can build companies just around doing this. Some of the examples that we used earlier with builders and students, some of those guys didn't own any of the companies to start with, but by controlling the transaction, remember, that's all a business is, an interest in a transaction. And by controlling that transaction, they were able to build companies from nothing. And this stuff is all skill. It's not talent. And like any skill, it's just a matter of getting trained. So remember, if you want to get trained personally, one-on-one, and in a manner that is so effective that when I sit down with you and I explain to you what these guys and gals, what my students, the people on our teams, our students, what these guys and gals are doing, when I sit down and explain it to you, when I tell you exactly what they're doing and exactly how they're doing it and exactly how you can do the same thing, you are going to be so fascinated and focused by their brilliance and on every word that I'm conveying of their brilliance that if somebody even tries to interrupt me, you are going to staple their tongue to a wall. If you want that, and you want it bad, I mean bad, I'm talking with a desire darker than sin, but in a good way. If you want to get trained like that, and what good and decent human being with even an ounce of ambition wouldn't, then you need to make sure that if and when applications are being accepted, you are all over it like fat people on free cake. Ambitions are the wings of ideas. You need both. And when you develop your empire building skill, and you do this correctly, when you develop the skill better, I'll tell you, everywhere you look, your eyes will be drinking up the milkshakes of opportunities that are all around us every day, all day, everywhere, every single day. This isn't for everybody, but if you're sure that it's for you, then hopefully we can work together, okay? Okay, WeBuildEmpires.com. And also, if you don't get emails from me, go to CaptainBad.com and join the ranks. Okay, now back to Josh. A quick side note about Josh, by the way. After his business took off and just before his death, Josh retired and he sold his shares in the business to his nephew. And his nephew's name was Roy Cohn. If you don't know who that is, then you haven't studied McCarthyism. And if you don't know what McCarthyism is, then you haven't studied history. Roy was the infamously well-known and notorious attorney during McCarthyism. In this picture, he's on the right, and the other guy is his BFF, Senator Joseph McCarthy. Roy was allegedly a closet homosexual, and when he died of AIDS, there were people who celebrated his death. Roy's really gone down in history as a pretty bad guy. Here's a picture from the HBO movie Angels in America. Roy's character was played by Al Pacino. This is a scene where he's dying of AIDS. So it's kind of weird that a guy like Roy was the benefactor of an empire made around toys, right? Toys. A guy like Roy. But forgive and forget, right? Besides, all that was a while ago, an unrecognizable time when the government was completely out of control and politicians lied. Okay, back to Josh. I gotta quit moving off the subject. So back to Josh and his toy and his habit of making attention getters that are worth more than the intended attention recipients. Remember that Russian guy who came in and bought his flashlight idea for pennies and then went on to make fortune after fortune after fortune? Well, that guy's name was Conrad Hubert, and his company, the one that he sold the flashlight through and made fortunes with, that company is still around today, and it does billions of dollars a year, and it has over 10,000 employees. Today, we call it Energizer. Yeah, so Josh missed out there. But what became of his toy, and what was the toy? Well, I'll bet you that if I tell you his middle name, you wouldn't even have to ask. You should be able to guess the toy when you hear Joshua L. Cohen's full name, and the company named after it, that also went on to make billions and created a toy that is still on display and used and bought and sold and in high demand today. His middle name was Lionel, and that's the story of Lionel Trains. Okay, kids, so that's today's lesson. Make the sizzle worth more than the steak, and finally remember this. Potential is a novel, and without the pain of progress, you will only know a single page. Most people are unhappy, but not unhappy enough to do anything about it. If you're not on the hard road to mastery, then you're on the easy road to mediocrity. I don't think you're here by accident, so please don't settle or give in to the myopic self-centeredness view that so many people fall for. It doesn't have to be like that. You can build something during your lifetime that has a generational impact, and that's what my stuff is all about. This is about a lot more than just buying and selling companies. This is about you working on a higher level, making a bigger difference, a difference that'll carry on, a difference that'll live on like a lobster, right? With a lobster-like longevity. It's what our people are doing every day, and you can do the same thing if you're ready. You already know where to apply if applications are being accepted. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks again. Really, I mean that. Thanks so much for everything. Until next time, as always, take care and God bless.